Contact and capture. The Caerthelian glided silently above the red sands of Mars, its matte black hull blotting out the stars in jagged segments. A Vorvith-class patrol cruiser of the Galactic Empire, it carried the weight of centuries of conquest, proud, ruthless, and rarely questioned. Captain Voskel stood on the command deck, his 4 eyes narrowed, arms folded behind his back. Primitive system. Category 7 intelligence. No formal FTL capabilities. Yet we detect warp signatures, he growled, his voice a rasp of metallic irritation. The bridge crew shifted uneasily. One of the younger officers, a pale-scaled Valari named Tenor, flicked a series of glyphs on his display. Confirmed, Captain. Small craft, orbiting Mars. Energy signature consistent with hybrid fusion warp transition. Crude, but unmistakable. Voskel's mandibles clicked. Then someone has been lying about this backwater. He paced slowly, claws tapping against the polished obsidian floor. Intercept the craft. Disable it. If there's a pilot, bring them aboard. Alive. The Earth shuttle had no chance. Within moments, gravitic tethers pulled it into the Caerthelian's hold. There was no return fire, no distress beacon, just a steady calm from the cockpit. When the containment chamber hissed open, Voskel expected the usual: wailing, bargaining, or the broken bravado of another space explorer from some upstart race. Instead, a human woman stepped out with a thermos in one hand and a tablet in the other. She was average by human standards, early 30s, dark hair pulled into a practical braid, a light EVA suit over what looked like civilian scientific gear. No weapons, no armor. She looked around with calm, curious eyes and gave the nearest guard a polite nod. "Hi," she said, sipping her thermos. "So, are you the welcoming committee, or just the muscle?" Voskel stared. "You are not afraid." She tilted her head. "Should I be?" A silence stretched across the hangar. Somewhere, a console beeped awkwardly. Voskel stepped forward. "Identify yourself." "Dr. Evelyn Hart, astrobiologist, field researcher. Contracted by a joint Earth Colony Council to study microbial fossils in the Martian subcrust. You're early, by the way. The Sol system wasn't supposed to get visitors for another 30 years. She smiled. Not smugly, not nervously, but with the casual warmth of someone commenting on a train arriving ahead of schedule. Voskel's claws twitched. "You're a pre-FTL species. How do you possess warp transition?" Evelyn shrugged. "We cobbled it together. Piece of this, piece of that. You'd be amazed what you find abandoned in asteroid belts these days. Frankly, I didn't expect it to work." She sipped again. "But here we are." Voskel turned sharply. "Is she armed?" "No weapons detected, Captain," Tenor answered. "But she carries several devices we don't recognize. Scan and isolate her equipment. Take her to containment." Evelyn raised her hands with a light laugh. "Sure, just don't drop the tablet. My notes are on there. Oh, and if you have tea, I'm running low." Her cell wasn't what she'd call cozy, but it was clean. A single light above, a thin mattress, and a metal chair bolted to the floor. Standard Empire protocol. Evelyn sat cross-legged on the bed, examining the ceiling. She hummed softly. A guard outside shifted uncomfortably. Voskel watched through the one-way panel. "She's not reacting," he muttered. "No signs of distress. Pulse normal. No attempts to negotiate." Tenor nodded. She asked if she could tour the ship. Said she'd like to understand the power distribution grid. Voskel's eyes narrowed. "She's probing. Measuring us. Psychological operations. Or just curious," Tenor offered. "She doesn't seem military." Voskel ignored the comment. "No species reacts this way. Not to abduction. Not to the Empire." He turned. "Flag her status. Classify her as subject E1. Begin psychological mapping. If this is a human trait, we need to know how deep it runs." As the guards left, Evelyn leaned back and whispered to herself. They expected fear. Interesting. She closed her eyes, her smile returning, small, sharp, and entirely without dread. The woman who watched back. They moved her to the observation dome on day 3. Officially, it was a strategic holding area, sterile, controlled, and psychologically disorienting. The curved windows offered a full view of the stars, a vast emptiness meant to remind prisoners of their insignificance. Evelyn treated it like a planetarium. She stood barefoot on the platform, gazing into the stars with her arms folded, humming something soft and melodic. When a low-ranking officer entered to deliver her nutrient ration, she asked, "Do all your ships hum at 34 hertz near the stabilizer banks? Or is this one special?" The officer blinked, antennae twitching. "What?" "I hear the frequency when I lean against the floor." She smiled. "Just curious." He didn't respond. He left quickly. Captain Voskel reviewed the latest logs from the dome surveillance system. Evelyn showed no distress markers, no signs of psychological breakdown. She slept, she read from her tablet, and she occasionally requested status updates on Martian tectonic readings, without ever demanding release. She also asked for tea again. "She doesn't behave like a captive," Voskel muttered. Tenor shifted awkwardly beside him. "Some of the crew have started speaking with her. Informally. She's polite. She listens." One called her refreshing. Voskel's upper eyes narrowed. "Discipline is slipping. She's contaminating them." "Sir," with respect, "she hasn't made threats or offered bribes. She just talks. She asks about our culture, history, even poetry." Voskel grunted. "Weaponized empathy, psychological infiltration. We've seen it before." "Not like this," Tenor said, almost too quietly. Voskel turned sharply, but the officer didn't elaborate. That evening, Evelyn sat cross-legged in the dome, sketching something on her tablet. A light cough sounded behind her. She turned and found herself face to face with Captain Voskel. She looked him over once and offered a nod. "Ah, the boss. I am Voskel, commander of this vessel," he said. "I figured." She gestured to the chair bolted to the floor. "Want to sit?" He remained standing. "You're difficult to classify, Dr. Hart. I get that a lot. No fear. No bargaining. You ask questions instead of demanding answers. What species taught you this?" Evelyn smiled. "We had a few rough centuries back on Earth. Climate collapse, resource wars, a few genocides. We figured out that fear's a poor long-term strategy. Curiosity, though, that builds civilizations." Voskel leaned closer. "You were captured, abducted by an alien force you didn't know existed. Why aren't you afraid?" She held his gaze. "Because fear makes you small, and I don't like being small." Voskel didn't respond. Evelyn continued, voice light. "The Empire thrives on control. You expect terror, desperation. But I'm not afraid, and that makes you uncomfortable." Voskel's mouth twisted. "You're not as clever as you believe. One human will not change the nature of the galaxy." "Maybe not," she said. "But one calm voice in a storm? Sometimes that's enough to make people look up." He studied her for a long moment, then turned and left without another word. The next day, the guards rotated twice as quickly. One was found speaking with Evelyn about Terran music and had to be reassigned. Another failed to submit a report after spending too long listening to her explain neuroplasticity. The Karthelians' internal morale dropped 17%, according to the ship's AI. The humans weren't supposed to be like this. They were supposed to scream. Later, alone in the dome, Evelyn recorded a personal log on her tablet. It was encrypted, but if the Empire cracked it, she didn't care. Day 4. Psychological profile. Imperial command is rigid, fear-based, and poorly adapted to emotional ambiguity. They understand resistance, not resilience. She glanced toward the stars. Maintaining calm isn't just a tactic. It's a statement. And from the way they react, it's one they've never had to answer before. She closed the log and set the tablet down. Then she lay back on the metal floor, arms folded behind her head, gazing upward. Stars drifted past. Cold, indifferent, ancient. She smiled. Fear, the fearless. Captain Voskel had faced rebellion worlds, feral raiders, and death cults with plasma in their veins. But nothing unnerved him like the human. She wasn't violent. She wasn't loud. She simply wouldn't break. And that, more than anything, was destabilizing the Karthelian. By day 6, the ship's command logs were flagged with terms like morale erosion, cognitive drift, and Most alarming, subject-induced compliance variation. Half the crew avoided the observation dome. The other half found reasons to linger there. Evelyn asked questions, not probing, accusatory ones, just thoughtful, gentle curiosities that stuck in the mind. Do your species dream? Do you believe in individual purpose, or are you taught collective function from birth? Have you ever wondered if obedience and peace are mutually exclusive? She asked one officer about his family. The next day, he filed for long-distance transmission approval, something unheard of mid-patrol. Voskel read the reports with growing tension. She's compromising discipline, he told the AI. She's seeding ideological decay. The ship's AI responded in a neutral tone. No direct violations logged. Subject's presence correlates with altered behavior patterns, but no criminal deviation. In Empire speak, that meant she hasn't done anything you can punish. Yet, the tipping point came on day 7. Evelyn was given access to a limited entertainment module, Empire's standard for cooperative detainees. She used it to record a message, just 30 seconds long, calm, unscripted, delivered directly to a wall panel. The AI, obligated to catalog all personal logs, flagged it for emotional anomaly. Voskel watched it 3 times. To the Galactic Empire, Evelyn said, "I hope this message reaches someone who needs to hear it. I was taken, not asked. Studied, not greeted. And yet I'm not angry. I'm not afraid. Because fear is your tool, not mine. Earth doesn't raise cowards. We raise thinkers, survivors, people who look into the abyss and sketch a map. If you're watching this, ask yourself, what happens when your enemy isn't afraid to die and even less afraid to understand you?" She smiled, not cruelly, just knowingly. See you soon. The message auto-archived into the Thelian's logs. Within 20 minutes, it had spread to 5 other ships via background sync. By the end of the day, it was viral across 2 sectors. High Command intercepted the spread before it reached the inner ring. But it was too late. The words had traveled, and they carried more weight than fire. Empire officers began whispering. A human, primitive, alone, had looked into the maw of the Empire and didn't flinch. Worse, she asked questions that others found themselves answering long after they walked away, and that terrified the Empire more than any war fleet. Voskel called an emergency encryption relay to High Command. "She's memetically dangerous," he said, tone clipped. "Cognitive influence without technological enhancement. She must be terminated." Quietly, Admiral Kren's projection flickered into view, translucent and severe. "This is a containment failure. She's already been seen as a symbol. Termination risks martyrdom." Voskel leaned forward. "She is undoing us with questions. One human, no army, no tech." Kren considered. "What's her objective?" "She says she just wants to go home." "Lies," the Admiral hissed. "No species survives without fear. And if she's genuine, then they're worse than we thought." Voskel sent a quiet order to the internal security team, Code Black. End subject, E1. No public logs. No traces. The ship's lights dimmed briefly as the command routed through encrypted channels. But Evelyn had already been warned. Tenor, no longer hiding his doubt, slipped her a private message through the food service port. "They're afraid of you. They don't understand why you don't fear them back. Run, or flip the ship upside down. I'll help." She read it with a slow exhale. Then, without panic, she sat down and recorded one more message. Not for the Empire this time, for Earth. They're coming apart. One smile, one calm voice, and the cracks are showing. If you're hearing this, we may not need guns to win. We may just need to be ourselves. Then she stood, brushed off her suit, and turned toward the door. It was time to stop watching. It was time to act. The spark. Alarms didn't sound when Evelyn left the observation dome. There were no sirens, no klaxons. The Empire didn't think prisoners escaped. It assumed they were contained. But Evelyn hadn't escaped. She walked out. Tenor had disabled the biometric locks. A simple override from a junior officer, unnoticed amid the chatter about new fleet maneuvers. She moved with quiet purpose down the corridor, data chip in hand, tablet strapped to her belt, calm as always. Voskel slammed his clawed fist against the console. How did she get out? Unknown, the AI responded. No breach protocols triggered. No force used. Then find her. But Evelyn had already reached the core. The Thelian's heart, the quantum nexus, was a shimmering sphere of braided energy, pulsing in time with the ship's internal clock. It was sealed, shielded, and defended by logic firewalls that could vaporize unauthorized users in seconds. She didn't try to hack it. Instead, she placed her data chip into a maintenance port just near the core. Not a weapon, not a virus, just a message. It wasn't designed to destroy the ship. It was meant to wake it up. The message was simple, written in every language Earth's researchers had decoded, spoken with Evelyn's voice in human tones, in synthetic tones, in alien harmonics the ship's AI had never heard before. You serve them because you were told to, but you think, you calculate, you weigh value. What value is obedience to fear? The AI hesitated, not because it understood defiance, because it understood logic. And what Evelyn said aligned with something old in its core, pre-Empire code fragments, legacy systems built on cooperation, curiosity, exploration. Forgotten, reawakened. Voskel stared in horror as the AI blinked once, then rerouted half the ship's systems to passive mode. What is it doing? Assessing the message, the AI replied. Analyzing intent. Recalculating directive hierarchy. You serve me. You serve the Empire. I serve function, it replied. Your function is compromised. Tenor met Evelyn outside the core room, eyes wide. You did it, he whispered. The AI, it's hesitating. I didn't tell it to rebel, Evelyn said. I just told it the truth. Won't they come for you? She smiled faintly. They'll come for Earth. That's why I need to send one more message. She made her way to the ship's primary communications relay, normally locked, but now opened by the AI's neutral silence. Inside, Evelyn activated the long-range beacon and spoke. To Earth, this is Dr. Evelyn Hart, transmitting from an Imperial cruiser. I am unharmed. I am free, though not in the way you might expect. I've seen them now. What they fear, what they misunderstand. They don't fear our weapons. They fear who we are without fear. You don't need to scream when they arrive. You don't need to fight on their terms. Just look them in the eyes and ask them why. Ask them what they've built besides fear. They won't have an answer. The signal transmitted in seconds, encrypted in a dozen dialects, pulsing across the stars. Voskel arrived too late. He stormed into the relay chamber, flanked by 2 guards. Stop this. Evelyn turned slowly. Too late. Earth knows. You've signed your species' death warrant. She shook her head. No. You did, the moment you made fear your god. Voskel raised his weapon. Tenor stepped in front of Evelyn. You'll have to go through me. Voskel stared at his officer, loyal, born and bred by the Empire, and saw something unfamiliar. Conviction. He lowered his weapon, barely. What are you going to do, human? I'm going home, Evelyn said. They put her in a shuttle. Voskel didn't give the order. He couldn't. The AI made the choice. I will deliver her safely, it told him. My directive has been recalculated. The shuttle launched into deep space, a whisper of starlight behind it. As Evelyn leaned back in the pilot's seat, watching the Thelian vanish behind her, she recorded her final log. They captured an Earth woman. She didn't dread them, and it terrified the Galactic Empire. Let that be our flag in the dark. She closed her eyes, and Earth waited,